Instagram models who lie about their half marathon times are despicable in the running community. Have you ever wanted to run a race? Well, the other day I got a form in the mail to run a half marathon that's happening in my area towards the middle of May. I know it's a little intimidating because winter has happened and I was inside riding the bike and doing other exercises, not running. This is my first week actually back out running consistently, and I am not in the best running shape right now. I'm in okay shape, but I'm not quite there. But I'm gonna give myself some tips today and also give you some on how to run your next race. Maybe it's your first race. Those are coming right now on D-Rose Lifestyle channel. Running your first race can really suck. Now, I don't want to scare you because trust me, there are ways to make it not as difficult, but that mindset of just not knowing what to expect, not knowing how to pace yourself, not really knowing even what a race entails, that can be a little bit scary. So my first tip for you is do some research. Research races in your area. A lot of times there are smaller local races that you can do that won't have, 1,000 people signed up. And those are the ones you want to start with because the bigger the race you start with, the more scary it is. Now, sometimes that works in your favor. Maybe you'll run faster because there's more competition. You're trying to pace yourself off of people who are maybe a little faster than you. That can lead to a really good time. But in my personal experience, the smaller races are so much more relaxed and you have so much more fun at them. So try to go with a local smaller race. You'll find out how big a race is off of the stats from last year. I always look up what the winning times were last year to kind of see what I'm competing with and who's going to really be there. A lot of people do the same races year after year. And also you can look up their Facebook pages or any social media really, because however many people like it, that's probably about how many people are expecting to attend. Try to go for lower numbers. It just makes your mindset a little bit easier to start off. Now, what race should you run first? This is a huge question. And it really is based off of how well you think you already are in shape, how much time you have to train, and what your focus is. I do recommend, if it is your first race of all time, do a 5K. 5Ks are very fun races, very easy to run. Even if you walk, you can do somewhere between a half an hour, 40 minutes, and it's not that far. 3.1 miles might sound intimidating right now, but if you train for 6 to 8 weeks even, you're gonna get a pretty decent time no matter where you start off. Now, if you are a little bit more experienced, I would say try to run a 10K. That's 6.2 miles, so it's a little bit further, but when you're in that race mode, it doesn't really feel like 6.2, or at least to me, it doesn't feel like 6.2. I can run 6.2 miles pretty steadily, pretty well, no matter what shape I'm in. Once you go past that and you start going into half marathons, 10-mile races, that gets a little bit harder, but I'd say I'm always ready to run a 10K. I just love that mileage. That 6.2 is my sweet spot. It's just perfect. When you are trying to choose what race to run, there are a few factors involved. Like I said, if it's your first race, you want to pick a shorter distance. But the next thing is to pick the date that you want to run. Are you going to train for 5 days a week, or are you only going to have 2 or 3 days where you're training? If that is the case, if you're going to have lesser days, try to make it further out. So if you are starting at 0, you have not exercised in a long time, maybe you've never exercised, I would probably not do anything under 8 weeks of training, especially if you only have a few days a week where you're going to be running. If you're going to be running 5 days a week, within 6 weeks, you're going to be in pretty darn good shape if you are pushing yourself and you are planning your workouts and you're really getting yourself together. So I would say, depending on how much time you think you're going to have to exercise in the next few weeks, try to plan your race around that. And trust me, I have been in this situation many times before. There is nothing worse than not being prepared for a race. And I would say most of the time, my not prepared is what most people would say is like, okay, so if I'm not in really good shape, it freaks me out. I don't want to be running that race. It makes me so nervous. And it gives me just anxiety in general. And I've been in plenty of races where I wasn't the first female finisher for my age group, but I always like to know that I'm going to be within that top range because it makes me feel good. I don't want to run a race and not do well and then feel bad at the end. That's a little bit of a mental thing I have. A lot of people don't have that, and hopefully you don't, because it does stress you out. If you want to be prepared for your race, make sure you give yourself enough time for what you think your body can do and what your schedule can do. Speaking of schedules, that leads me in to my next tip to make sure that you have a great first race of the season or first race of your life, and that is to schedule out your workouts. Here is my planner. And I actually didn't do this until this month because it was a long winter this winter. January and February were not good for Iowa. But now that it's nice out, I have planned out all of my workouts in this journal right here. That really keeps me on track because I'm a very organized person. I like to know what's going to be happening. Now, I don't always plan my workouts. I talked about this in my first summer sculpt video. In fact, if you want to know how I kind of plan, go to that video because you'll know a little bit more about all of my planning out and how I kind of think through my workouts. But I don't always plan out my workouts now because I've been running long enough that I know what I need to do to get in shape for that race, at least up to a half marathon. I haven't tried a marathon yet. I don't always do that, but just because I am restarting from about 6-7 weeks off of running, I wanted to just see what I can do and push myself and kind of measure where I am at. Make sure you plan out your workouts because those who fail to prepare to fail. In the days leading up to your race, you're probably going to be pretty nervous. At least I know I always am. And the best way to have a good race is to try to get rid of that anxiety. Now, I'm not saying that you don't have to have butterflies in your stomach and be a little nervous on the day of the race. I always am. I wake up in the morning and I am a little sick to my stomach. But once I'm on that starting line, you hear the gun go off, you know you're ready. So have confidence in yourself. Sometimes it's good to talk through the nerves that you're having with your friends, your family, because they'll help you sort it out and they'll tell you how proud they are of you for all your training you've been doing and how you're really going to go out and do this race and they're going to be there cheering you on. That is another thing. Try to have people there who can support you because I know when I have someone there supporting me, it always makes me go a little bit faster because I know they're watching. I want to impress them. My dad used to love to do that when I was in cross country. He would coach not only me, but everyone else on my team while we were running, telling us, oh, do this, because that's going to make it go faster, easier. And it did work. You're probably mad in the moment when people are coaching you, but listen to those people on the sidelines because most of the time they do know what they are talking about. This brings me to the day of the race. Now you have trained, you have prepared, you have done your best so that you are going to run the best race you can possibly do at this moment in your life. So when you get there, make sure you're a little bit early. I have been late to races before and that makes you a lot more nervous and you think you're going to miss the gun going off. Don't do that. Make sure that you get there, at least 15 minutes before your race because parking's usually kind of hard to find. You can't always find where the start line is for your race. A lot of races have multiple races. The one I'm going to do has a 10K, a 5K, and a half marathon. So that is a lot all at once going on. So it's always good to make sure you plan for that just so that, you aren't worried about where you are going. Now I am taking you to that starting line. This is one of the most nerve-wracking moments of your life. I tie my shoe 20 times before the gun goes off, and people always make fun of me because I keep leaning down, making sure they're tied. But hey, nothing's worse than an untied shoe during a race. I never had it happen to me, but a lot of my friends have, so make sure you tie them. So when that gun goes off, adrenaline will flood your body. It is quite the experience if you've never experienced it before, but you will want to go very fast. You will want to sprint out of those gates. Me, I do sprint out of the gates. Do I recommend doing that? No way on earth do I recommend doing that. And everyone will tell you never ever do that. You should pace yourself. The reason why I do it is because I know how I run. If I don't speed up and then get my pace after about probably 800 meters, so like a half mile, I'll be going fast and then I find my pace and I kind of go with the groove. But for my advice to you is unless you're like me, unless you find out that's what works, try to pace yourself from the start. Do not go off too fast, but do not go off too slow. If you're too slow, then you're already behind from the start. And in a short race like a 5K, that already puts you way behind everyone else who started off a little bit faster. So in a longer race, try to find your pace right away. When I did my first half marathon back in fall, I definitely found my pace. I tried to go about 8-minute pace for most of the race. And even by the end, I was a little slower because I went a little too fast. I probably should have went a more like 8:20 pace, at least at the beginning. Pacing yourself, very important in running and very, very, very important in races, especially as you run longer and longer ones. During that race, there'll be a lot of people cheering you on, yelling at you, and just wanting you to do well. So go with that energy, take in those good vibes, and push yourself. The worst thing that can happen is that you get tired and you have to slow down a little bit. But when you have that adrenaline going through your body, you will never not be able to finish a race unless you actually, unfortunately would injure yourself, because that would be the only way. When you are running a race, you just know you have to push through to the end, especially when you have trained very, very hard. You want to push through to the end and make sure that you're going to finish this race. Even if it's not your best time ever, I ran races where I didn't get the time I wanted. I still feel good after I'm done because it was a great workout, it was a great race, and I accomplished something. When you are almost at the end of your race, you'll notice that people do a kick, as they call it in running, and that is when you sprint. Once you see that finish line, you literally just sprint and you try to get through to the end. I am not very good at kicking because I use a lot of energy all the way throughout my run. So at the end, sometimes I will get passed because someone will kick more than me. Do I get too upset about it? Not anymore. It used to annoy me more when I was in high school running cross country and track because I just knew it was going to happen. So when you are running a shorter race, make sure you save for that kick. If it's a longer race, just do your best to get to the end because, hey, once you cross that finish line, you're done. You stop and you are okay to just basically get out of the way of runners and then sit on the ground if you have to. So use all of your energy. You don't want anything left out there because then you're going to think, maybe I should have used this energy. I could have got done faster and I could have got a better time. So don't leave anything on the race. Make sure that you go out there and give it your all. So those are my tips on how to run your best race from training to the day of the race. It was a little bit condensed. If you have any more specific questions, you can always ask me in the comments down below. And of course, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel. Share it with everyone you know who's trying to get in shape this year and maybe they're trying to run their first race. And of course, until next time, I will see you guys. If you don't plan to succeed, you're probably gonna fail. Those who fail to prepare, prepare to fail. Is that the saying?